We are less than 2 weeks away from the release of Atlus's next big game, Metaphor ReFantazio. Metaphor is a particularly exciting entry from Atlus because it is a brand new IP, seemingly disconnected from the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series as is. The sheer amount of talented people who have contributed to this game in one way or another is insane, and I am beyond excited to see what kind of experience Studio Zero can offer with this fresh fantasy setting. If you're as excited as I am, then I have good news. Metaphor has a playable demo that allows you to play through the entire prologue of the full game. You probably already knew that since this demo has been out for like an entire week at this point, but still, it's a shockingly cool move by Atlus/Sega to release such an expansive demo. I mean, they have done demos before, but this one takes it to another level. It's several hours long, literally covering the entire prologue of the full game. To give you an idea of how long this demo is, if Persona 5 had a demo like this, it would end right after you recruit on and start Kamoshida's palace properly. That's how much of this game you get to experience for free. Plus, you can carry over your progress from the demo to the main game, and that's great. Love seeing that. Anyway, the first thing I want to talk about is the game's combat. In typical Atlus fashion, most of the combat is turn-based, but rather than using the one more system from Persona, Metaphor instead opts for the press turn system from SMT. I don't think they actually call it that at any point, but come on, it's press turn, and that is a fantastic choice. Don't get me wrong, I like the one more system enough. I wouldn't have minded if they went with that here, but I much prefer press turn overall. Press turn is just a more engaging battle system, one that rewards proper utilization of targeting enemy weaknesses and protecting your own, and it also ties in really well with the Demon/Persona fusion mechanic. The demo doesn't get deep enough into the game to give a clear idea on how well the new archetypes will tie in with the combat. One of the aspects of Atlus games I love the most is how well the fusion mechanic melds with the combat, and I hope Metaphor and its archetypes manage to hit the same highs. Additionally, there is the inclusion of a front and back row that you can switch your squad mates from whenever it's their turn, without even using up one of your limited actions. Being in the front row means dealing more physical damage, but also taking more damage from enemies. The back row, on the other hand, deals less physical damage, but takes less damage in turn. The ability to switch between them at will is an interesting wrinkle that I think will have a lot of potential as the combat evolves throughout the game. There's even a boss fight in the demo that gives us a taste of what they could do with it, and I think it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, archetypes are basically the new versions of Personas. They even have their own Persona-esque awakening scenes. I do think there's a lot of potential with archetypes, especially considering the elements that make them stand apart from Personas, like how every party member can use every archetype and how you can even equip multiple party members with the same archetype at the same time. Every character has their own upgrade tree for archetypes and must level them individually. There is no cross-leveling or anything like that. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of the mantras from Digital Devil Saga, where each character could learn whatever skills you wanted as long as they unlocked them for themselves. You were still beholden to how their stats were allocated when leveling up. You don't get to choose where your team members' stat points go, so that was something to keep in mind. The same seems to be the case here in Metaphor with archetypes, but we'll see more of how it all comes together as the game progresses. On top of the classic turn-based combat, Metaphor also gives real-time action combat a much bigger role. Before entering the turn-based battle, you can whack your enemies real hard with a sword a few times to stun them, giving you an advantage going into the squad battle, which is what they call the turn-based stuff. Enemies have a little stun bar that you have to deplete, and stronger enemies are harder to stun. If you're not careful, they can whack you instead and gain the advantage. My favorite aspect of all of this is the fact that if an enemy is weak enough, then you can just take them out without ever having to do a squad battle, making it much quicker and efficient to deal with them. I imagine this will make grinding much easier, and anything that manages that is a win in my book. Overall, the combat mechanics of Metaphor aren't necessarily anything revolutionary, but I do think they are doing some unique things that will help it stand apart from their other games, namely Persona. I like it so far, but to be fair, Atlus combat has always been one of my favorite parts of these games, so I was probably going to like it anyway. Probably the biggest difference between Metaphor and your average Atlus game is the setting and story. Most Atlus games take place in a version of Earth, typically set in Japan. The Persona games all have you playing as a Japanese high schooler, so even with the fantastical elements like personas and gods and monsters and whatever else, most Atlus games are still tied to reality, our reality. Metaphor has gone in a completely different direction. For this game, they've created a brand new original fantasy world for the game's story, and that has been one of my biggest points of interest since the game was first announced. I was really excited to see what Studio Zero would deliver when given the complete freedom of a fantasy realm, and based on what I saw in this demo, I was right to be excited. I have been really enjoying what I've seen of the world so far, the different races, the characters and their culture, the technology. Oh, and I absolutely love the idea of our world being being their fantasy. Minor spoilers going forward, but there is very clearly some kind of connection between our world and theirs. I mean, the big, bad, ugly monsters are even called humans. What the story has set up so far has me invested, but I'm also a little worried that the payoff for the whole mystery will end up souring the experience. If it ends up being some "it was all a dream" bullshit, I will be thoroughly disappointed. It does seem like they went into the story with a clear idea of what the endpoint would be, and based on previous games, I'm hoping it will be a satisfying conclusion. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Oh, I also love the memorandum thingy that you can access at any point in the game to learn more about the world, and in my case, remind myself what all the bizarre fantasy words actually mean. Oh, also, I really love the fact that the protagonist is voiced. I mean, technically they're always voiced, but you'll see what I mean. When you select a dialogue option, your character actually says it, making him feel much more like his own character within the game.
Are you alright?
Been worse. And from the sounds of it, you're about the same.
You still name him so nobody ever says his name, but I think it's a step in the right direction, or at least a good compromise between a full self-insert character and being his own character. This demo is just a prologue, so there is so much more story and world building to see with the full game, and I am looking forward to it. It's a good demo, and I think if you give it a chance, you will have a very clear idea of what you're getting out of the full game when it releases. Which is exactly what a demo should do, so, you know, good job everyone, round of applause. Well, thanks for sticking around while I rambled about this demo for however long this video is. I love when publishers and devs release demos like this, and I hope it's a practice we see more of going forward. If you have played the demo, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I'd love to see if other people enjoyed it as much as I did, especially if you're less familiar with Atlus games. Kinda wonder if this game only appeals to Atlus/Persona fans, so let me know. If you're interested in seeing my review on the full game when it comes out, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Gonna try and get it out as soon as possible, but I have to work a real job too, so it might take me a sec. Anywho, I've been Tin from Tin Max, and I will see you in whatever we do next.